Welcome back to Hey USA. This week we're talking about elections, Florida and New Jersey. Welcome back to another edition of Hey USA. I'm Nick Garcia, lead writer, Play USA, and joined with me as always is Play USA lead writer Brant James. Brant, how are we doing today?
Doing well. It's been an interesting week. Sports betting arrived real stealthy in the middle of the day on Monday here in Florida. The news came with no official press release, no word for the Seminole tribe, no comment or answers to questions as emailed to the Seminole tribe thereafter. But all of a sudden, the Hard Rock Gaming app appeared, and folks can bet on sports legally in Florida on the app.
Came out of thin air. That's nuts.
Yeah, there were a few. There was a hint that I sort of discounted. It came last Thursday. The Seminole tribe made a very large deal of the fact that it was announcing 5 marketing agreements with pari-mutuel outlets in the state of Florida, among them Tampa Bay Downs in my area, Palm Beach Kennel Club was another. If you are really into wonky contract language, sports betting couldn't be launched by Hard Rock and the Seminoles until they'd gotten at least 3 of these deals. They got 5, and they made a big deal to say that they had some more coming. That made sense, and sure enough, a few days later, the app was launched, and there we are.
So to touch on that, mobile sports betting a thing, retail sports betting is still on hold for the moment.
It's not built out yet. I've not stuck upon the premises again. Since 2 weeks ago. The bar with the big TVs is there, and the windows downstairs. A 1-minute ride from the Sportsbook behind the elevator before you hit the casino. It was still being built. But I will say that the app has been performing well, for purely business purposes only. I registered, and it was a really quick process from registration to funding to betting. I timed it. It was 4 minutes and just a couple of seconds. It was really very fast. And again, because we're all about the beta testing here, I've been walking around the state of Florida, or at least within 20 miles of where I live. The night that sports betting launched, I had Capitals Lightning tickets, and I can verify that I was able to place a bet in Section 301, row L, seat 14. I can't prove it, but I will say forever that I was the first person to place a legal sports bet in Amalie Arena, so somebody proved me wrong.
Did you happen to win that bet?
I did not, because I'm a Capitals fan, and I was not going to bet on the Lightning. But let's do some live a couple days after we record this. We're going to check now just to make sure that it's still running, and we'll break some news in case it's not. I've got a bet right here. I've got Dortmund to beat Ajax in the Champions League today. And here's my $7 million bet, and let's see if it works. I've got Dortmund at plus 180. Done. Still works. There we are. Updates.
All right, so we got Florida sports betting finally on the horizon.
That news that they launched was a little unexpected because there's a huge court case coming on November 5 where Wes Flagler Associates, they own a couple of pari-mutuel outlets. They're actually suing the state of Florida and the Department of the Interior, saying that this mobile sports betting pact is illegal. Strange for the Seminoles to launch before then, but they always win, so I guess that's why they just went for it. And maybe they figure it'll be tough for the courts to unring the bell in case folks try this and like it. But yeah, more state news. Tuesday, Election Day, a couple of big ballot initiatives. In New Jersey, there was a vote whether or not to allow betting on in-state college teams and on college games that are taking place in the state of New Jersey. It face-planted big time. And in Virginia, there was a referendum about building a casino in Richmond. It was ahead as we record this. Those were probably the 2 biggest nationally. There was something about bingo in Texas. They probably think it's a big deal because it's Texas. Biggest bingo ever, honestly. And there were a couple of things in Iowa, but those were the biggies.
Yeah, the Texas referendum or ballot initiative was approved by, from what I read, 84%. So you can have, raffles and bingos at Texas rodeos now, which is apparently a huge thing. So we'll see. And then
They'll tell you it is, even if it's not.
yeah,
Excellent.
the Richmond one was very interesting. The state approved 5 casinos at 5 different cities. 4 out of the 5 they got approval earlier this year. Richmond was the last one. And right now, yeah, like you mentioned, a little too close to call. From what I'm reading, right about 3% margin of error that it might lose. So
Hmm.
we'll see. Yeah.
Big news. Well,
But
we're
yeah,
gonna get the real info out of New Jersey. We're gonna bring in David Danzis. He's the writer at PlayNJ.com, and he's been on this. Obviously, this is a very big deal. This goes back a long time in New
yeah,
Jersey sports betting history, which is longer than just 2018, because as you know, anyone who's studied on this, New Jersey flipped the first domino with court cases that went back a decade now, and the provision to not be allowed to bet on in-state sports teams was baked into the original Constitution, which is why it's been so hard to undo this. But David's been watching this diligently. We're going to bring him in to get a lot smarter on the topic.
nice. All right, let's bring him in. So joining us today is Play NJ writer David Danzis. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
So we got some big stuff going on in New Jersey. Can you kind of give us a rehash of what you've been following on this referendum? Is a ballot initiative. That's what it is, correct?
Yeah. I mean, the words are sort of interchangeable here. What voters were deciding last night was a constitutional amendment, right? Anything gambling related in the state of New Jersey requires voter consent. So there was a proposal for an expansion of sports betting here in New Jersey. Right now, and looks like going forward, betting on in-state college teams such as Rutgers University, Seton Hall, Princeton, Monmouth U, can't do that in New Jersey. In that same vein, you're not allowed to bet on any college events hosted in the state, regardless of whether they include a New Jersey-based college.
Okay.
So, for instance, we have the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference basketball tournament here in Atlantic City, and you can't bet on any of those games right next door in any of the casinos in Atlantic City. So that's what voters were deciding on last night. That was soundly rejected. We're still in unofficial results stage, right? Going back to my newspaper reporting days, we don't say anything's official until the results are certified. But right now, it's looking about 57% to 43% against. So soundly rejected, wasn't even close, and that's what most of the polls were telling us leading up to Election Day.
David, I'm interested in the why. A couple years ago at a G2E conference, Chris Christie, who was obviously instrumental in sports betting getting going in New Jersey, was asked this question if this would ever be legalized. And his answer, and I think he's a Rutgers guy, I think he was undergrad or he has some connection there, but he basically said, I just don't know if people care that much if they can't bet on Rutgers or Seton Hall. Is it that? Is there some other political leaning to it? Like why? I mean, it wasn't just a close thing and people were like, it's going to lose big, as you said. Why?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons why, and I touched on some of them in a recent story I did on Play NJ. One is exactly what you mentioned, right? There's sort of this is an inconsequential thing to be voting on, right? There was sort of a lot of voter apathy, if you will. They just didn't care one way or another. So I will agree with the former governor there. I do just want to say one thing. As a Rutgers alum, Chris Christie is not a Rutgers alum.
Stiff. Oh, Heisman.
We can't claim him on the banks of the Raritan for better or worse.
Still not very popular there, right?
No. When he left
right.
office after his second term, the least popular governor in state history. So,
Everybody's
so
got to
the
do
second
something.
reason why I think this was doomed to fail was there wasn't a whole lot of attention to this issue, even though it was on the ballot, right? We're in an off-year election here in New Jersey. We did have the governor on the ballot as well as all 120 of our state representatives, but no federal representatives. So not really a whole lot of push behind this to get it on the ballot in terms of piggybacking off of other sort of bigger elections. The other thing, and this is not to get too into the weeds of New Jersey politics here, but in off-year elections, typically we see certain demographics turn out in higher numbers. And those are most often, and I'm speaking in generalities here, older, more affluent, non-college educated, conservative-leaning voters. Then you add on the fact that there's a Democratic incumbent in the governor's office, and that also spurs the other party's turnout, right? So all of that was pushing towards a higher Republican-leaning, conservative-leaning turnout. And historically speaking, those voters have not been very receiving of gambling-related issues. And specifically, we look back to 1976 when casino gaming was legalized here in New Jersey, and as well as 2011 when sports betting was first voted on here in New Jersey. Most of the opposition to that came from Republican-leaning counties, and we saw that again last night.
So I guess my question is this a one-and-done thing? Can lawmakers come back in a couple of years and try this again, or is this door shut for good?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer to that is the reason, yes, there will be another bite at the apple. And the reason why, and that's why it was on the ballot this year, the reasoning behind this push at all is because the NCAA tournament is coming to the Newark Prudential Center in 2025. And lawmakers here want to make sure that sports bettors can gamble on those games if they choose to. Mm-hmm. Or if, just like last year, we had Rutgers and Seton Hall basketball teams in March Madness, and you couldn't bet on either of them. So the way the Constitution is written, lawmakers will have to wait another 2 years to put this on the ballot in front of voters again. So 2023, we're likely looking at another bite at the apple here. The catch is, if that fails, then there is no. Yeah. That's it. It won't be there in time for 2025. So I think we're going to see more of a public relations, more public awareness push for this ballot initiative in 2 years.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Speaking of bites of the apple there, wouldn't it be New York's ultimate revenge if at that point in time they're up and firing with mobile sports betting and folks are going the other way across the bridge into New York to bet on the NCAA tournament because they can't? Finally, New Jersey will start building some bridges in New York instead of vice versa.
Yeah, I think that's very likely going to happen. Based on what I was reading this morning, it sounds like New York is getting pretty close to announcing who some of their online operators are. So we'll know who that is probably by the end of the week or latest early next week. Clearly, that's going to have an impact on New Jersey. And yeah, it would be somewhat ironic and a little apropos, if you will, just because New Jersey's kind of been rubbing New York's nose in all of its sports betting success. So I'm sure New York is looking for any way to kind of get even and level the score there.
So, David, other than this issue, what other kind of things are you following there in New Jersey? Like, what's piquing your interest?
Yeah, I mean, right now, the big thing that we're all sort of looking at is whether online gaming eclipses $1 billion in annual revenue this year, which is going to be a really big deal if that happens. Obviously, New Jersey's been at the forefront of this since 2013 and really has sort of set the table for everybody else who comes along and launches online gaming. But $1 billion in annual revenue is really a big benchmark, much more significant than, say, September's $1 billion in sports betting handle. $1 billion in annual revenue is something people can really sink their teeth into and understand just how big this amenity really is in New Jersey. So that's something that we're really paying close attention to, and those numbers come out next week, and we'll see if it happens.
They're so used to the billions in New Jersey. Yeah, that billion is just not.
Sports betting handle that was 2 weeks ago news, guys. Come on.
It's so long ago. Touching on one thing you said earlier, just curious, if the state house flips in New Jersey, if there's a Republican as a governor, does that change the tone of any future tweaks to gambling legislation? I mean, New Jersey is pretty entrenched with what it does, but does it change the arc or the tone, or does anything affect if it's not Murphy or a Democrat in the office?
Not necessarily, because both houses of the state legislature are still controlled by Democrats, and Democrats are the ones pushing for this. So it doesn't change that really. This passed both houses. I think there was 4 dissenting votes in total and 3 abstentions out of 120 votes. So, I mean, this isn't even a contentious issue among Democrats or Republicans in the state. I think it's more. I think your first point was really the most important and salient here is just voter apathy, right? I mean, why are we voting on this? What does it matter? How does this change anything? Do we really want to bet on Rutgers basketball? Do we really want to bet on Seton Hall? It's kind of one of those things. I just don't think most people care one way or the other.
Yeah. One last chance for Rutgers football to disappoint them. Maybe they just want a little less stress in their lives.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It is what it is.
Brant, do we have any other questions for David here? Or
that was so packed with information, I don't think we could possibly wring any more out of him. I will say that we'll link David's work in our description below because he is on top of this for sure. Click right where Nick is pointing and click often, click refresh, whatever you need to do. Stay up to date on what's happening in New Jersey there.
David, you get the last line. What do you got?
That's it, guys. I'm going to sleep. Election night, no matter where you're reporting from, is always a late one. And last night was fun in New Jersey, and I'm gonna go take a nap.
You are a reporter. Look at you. Sleep well.
Thanks for coming on, sir.
Again, that was David Danzis of PlayNJ.com. Click the links below. It's very good stuff. Stay on top of it. Staying in that same vein with the political. We don't like to get too much into that, but it does matter as far as whether you're going to get the bet on sports or not. We're going to clean out our notebooks before maybe we take a nap too. Nick, what you got? What else is happening nationally there?
One of the big things here in Illinois is the General Assembly passed 2 amendments to allow one for betting on college sports. So now we won't have any hiccups if Loyola Chicago were to meet Illinois again in the first round. That's cleaned up. It should be good by March. And then the other thing is in-person registration, meaning you have to drive to a casino to sign up for your sports betting account, will expire on March 5th.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, if you can brave the winter without having to travel, just wait till March, and then you could do it from the comfort of your home. But if you're getting that itch to place a bet on football, you're still going to have to make it up to a casino to sign up for that account. Other than that, I mean, nationally, I think, we hit on the big stuff. Texas, Virginia, New Jersey, Illinois got some stuff. But from the election side of things, I think those are the big issues going down. There's some stuff down in Louisiana. Is that right?
Yeah, Louisiana snuck in the day on Halloween. Morning of Halloween, 8 a.m., the two Caesars properties down there began taking bets just in time for the Saints game. Came in a day early. It kind of dovetails with Florida in that it's 2 really big states for hosting national championship games, Super Bowls. I don't know if I invented the term, but again, I'll take credit for that. Like my Amelie Arena Bet, sports tourism. It's easy to envision folks pouring down Bourbon Street, very happy that their team made the Sugar Bowl or the national championship game or the Super Bowl, and being able to place bets on those. And it's much the same in Florida. So that was a very large deal there.
I mean, I'd say the heart of SEC country that it's just now starting to get bets. So that's good. That's perfect time.
Yeah, that's a great point. Think about that and Nashville. When folks go to Tennessee, those are 2 destination spots, much more than Starkville or a Tuscaloosa. Those are places where you're going to go see your team play, and now you can place legal bets there. But touching on Louisiana again, I'm fascinated by the Twitter-generated rumor mill and probably somewhat ego-generated Drew Brees rumor mill that maybe he would stand back from the desk at NBC Sports and come back and be the savior for the Saints with Jameis Winston out for the year. Interesting story, aside from the fact that he was definitely a declining Drew Brees when he left, but that's not really what I care about. This is a guy that's a PointsBet brand ambassador. Ooh, you should go check our brand ambassador power poll. That was an accidental little
link in the description.
Yeah, that's going to be down there. Go get it. But to me, it'd be fascinating because this would be the first case where a person who is absolutely affiliated with a sports book, he tells you to go take the risk-free bets, and he encourages you to patronize PointsBet. I mean, maybe there's just a line in his contract where he has an opt-out, and he obviously wouldn't get paid, but this would be just yet another one of those little eraser blurs of sports betting and the NFL.
It would be very exciting if they just see him like taking off the headset unbuttoning the shirt. He's got this jersey on underneath, and then he takes the field. Yeah.
Yeah. All that points bet stuff I said, just forget about it for a minute.
Yeah. Other than that, David mentioned the stuff in New York. That should be coming up soon. I'm also working on a story, kind of recap this election stuff, so be on the lookout for that. Brant, you got anything you're working on? Any writing?
Well, one more thing, mentioning the blurring of the lines between the NFL and gambling. As we record today, I'm going to read, the National Football League and Aristocrat Gaming have announced an exclusive multi-year slot machine agreement. Under the terms of the agreement, Aristocrat will have exclusive global license to build land-based NFL-themed slot machines. So maybe you'll have a little Drew Brees head. You'll pull it and you'll be like, Drew Brees, who dat? Again, 5 years ago, would not have thought this. So, but as far as the things I'm working on, a couple weeks ago I spent a day watching sports and betting on sports at Circa Sportsbook in Las Vegas, which was a pretty incredible experience. The place is an emporium of sports betting. It was great people watching, just an immersive experience. And then another story sort of sprocketing off that about the Circa Sports executives and how they feel about DraftKings one day coming into the market, how that will change Nevada and how Circa plans to compete. So if you would, again, down there, check that out.
Isn't it UNLV that has the slot machine in the end zone?
They do. It's really borderline cheesy. When I say borderline, over the borderline into cheesy.
Man, I hope the Raiders put that NFL slot machine in the end zone, and then Gronk just goes over there and just, pulls it, cracks a Red Bull maybe, or something nuts.
Honestly, with the month that the Raiders have had self-inflicted, the Raiders need to do anything that they can to get people to think about anything but the Raiders. So.
They do indeed. That's it on my end. What about yourself? I think we've touched on everything we need to.
I do. I need to get on here and see if I've got any new hard rock parlays, because I can do that now. Ka-chow.
With that, shoot us anything in the comment, any questions. If you want us to touch on any subject, we're always here. Follow us on Twitter. Follow, subscribe. You know what to do.